Well, hi everybody, this is DearMamaSal, and I wonder if any of you worry yourself sick before you need to. Listen up. Well, hi everybody, here I am again, and I'm on my way to see my specialist. As some of you will remember, I went to get some tests done in the hospital before I went away on my wonderful vacation to Hawaii. And today I get to find out officially what the results are, and I get to hear them from my specialist. Now, I thought I would just talk about this because, quite honestly, I have not given it a whole lot of thought since the day I took the test. And I know that a lot of people will worry themselves sick between when they took the tests and now, and probably get very frustrated because it takes so long to get the results or whatever else it is, and I don't do that. I just sort of work on the principle, which is, why would I stress about something I don't know? And if what I hear is not altogether good, then let me worry about it then, not now. I'd rather enjoy my day. Thank you. And I guess this is something that I have tried very hard to learn over the years, and I must admit that it's getting easier now that I'm getting older. I used to worry myself sick about everything. And now, quite honestly, I'm beginning to really understand the Serenity Prayer, which, tells you not to worry about things you can't control. So, is there a possibility that I will have some negative news? It's a possibility. But equally so, I could have very good news. And if so, I will need to find other tests to do to find out what's causing the problems that I have. So, I would ask you to have a look at your life and go, where do you worry yourself sick without need? Now, some of us had good reason to worry ourselves stupid. Some of us have very serious health issues. Some of us have no way of getting out of those very serious health issues. And yet, I have met so many people who, quite honestly, have a lot to complain about, and very few of them do. It's like they seem to have come to grips with the fact that it is what it is, and this is as good as it gets, and let me enjoy my life as best I can with what I have. Now, that is a great attitude to have. How do you make the best of what you have? And I think when we do that, some of us start to see that the problems we have are not nearly as bad as some we could have. That's what I always think about. I think about some of my viewers and I go, yeah, right, what am I complaining about? So I want to thank those viewers, and you know who you are, who inspire me on a daily basis to just get on with my life, because really, my life's really good by comparison. Now, I just wanted to make a point here, and I was hoping that people who watch this might be able to add some stuff. I've been asked by one of the viewers to do a series on getting interviewed, and the reason is because they know that I've interviewed a lot of people in my time, and I said yes, I'd be delighted to. And I wondered whether you, the viewers, would be good enough to let me know what were the worst interview questions you can remember. And the one that came up because I said, can you give me a for instance, so that I can give some thought to it. And the one that came up was, why should I employ you? And I thought that was a really good, typical question that they ask. And the reason they ask it is because it's totally open-ended, and it tells them a lot about you depending on how you answer it. Now, one of the things I always say to people when they are getting interviewed is make sure you know what you're promoting. In other words, make sure you've read the advertisement that they put in, and make sure you know what qualities they're looking for, and have those cemented in your brain, but also make sure you know your talent, so that you can mix those two up in almost every answer you give. And so in order to answer that question, I'm going to pretend that I'm applying for a job, and if somebody was stupid enough to ask me that question, this is how it would go. So they're going to say to me, why should I employ you? And I'd go, well, first of all, I have to tell you that I don't think I would be rude enough to tell you what you should or should not do, especially when I'm looking for a job. So you see, the first thing I would do is get a smile, because that is part of who I am, and they need to know that. However, having said that, in terms of what I think you're trying to ask me here is what specific talents do I think I have that would make me a very strong candidate, if not the candidate. As far as I remember from what I saw in your advertisement, you were looking for somebody with this quality, this quality, this quality. And I definitely have experience in all of those, and I'd be more than happy to talk about them. But over and above that, I bring a few more characteristics and talents. There's part of me that doesn't necessarily want to talk too much about them, because I don't want to sound too full of myself. But I think it is important that you know that I have a very strong leadership background. I also have a very strong motivational background, the motivation of others, although quite honestly I believe that people motivate themselves. So somewhere in there I've got people skills that create that sort of thing in people. And then also I am task oriented, but not totally so. When I say not totally so, I am pretty balanced about getting the job done, but not at the cost of people. And I would think my people skills are probably some of my strongest attributes, along with my sense of humor. And my ability to see problems from above. It's always been said of me, and it's been said many times, that I'm a problem solver. When there is a problem, I'm inclined to see it from above rather than be in it. And they tell me that's an unusual talent, and so I guess I need to mention it. Anything else you'd like to know? So you will notice, I hope, that I am very conversational in the way that I give information, because it makes it more pleasant for the person doing the interviewing. I want to tell you, being an interviewer is a very boring job, and most people don't have time to interview the people that they have to interview, and they actually resent it, because they know that most of it's going to be a total waste of time. So don't waste people's time. Give them a little bit of information, and if they want more, they'll ask for it. The other thing that most people just don't realize, that who you are as a person is quite honestly sometimes all you need. Some people don't want you to have a whole stack of experience unless they specifically ask for it. And I have got jobs where they specifically asked for certain experience that I didn't have. But I just said to them, I'm a really quick read. And I've always worked on the principle, if I can talk my way into a job, the chances are I can do it pretty well. It's always been true for me. So remember not to waste anybody's time. But on the other hand, you're there to get a job. And I'd like to suggest that if you don't believe in your talent, or if you don't believe in why they should employ you, then why should they? So I think another thing I'd probably end up saying somewhere along the line is I'd probably come back to it a bit later, answering something else, and I'd say, you know that thing you asked me about, why should you employ me? Not too many people who have regretted it. I think I'd add that in there. Most made an awful lot of money and were very thankful for it. Most had problems solved that they never thought they could solve. So yeah, that would perhaps be another reason. You see, it's okay to go back to that question later if you want to, because that's conversational. That's what you would do in a conversation. But if you're going, okay, I can't answer that now because they asked it 5 minutes ago, I'd rather let them know, hey, just because 5 minutes has passed doesn't mean I'm not still thinking about that question. Because that's what I do. Make sense? The thing I do know about interview questions is they normally fall into two categories. One is factual stuff, and the other has to do with values. And so when they ask you an open-ended question, like why should I employ you, what they're looking at is your character. Yeah, how egotistical are you? How factual are you? Now, if you notice, I didn't say things like, well, I'm the best that there is in the job. No. First of all, I said I wouldn't think to tell you what you should or should not do, because that's part of my character. But the other point is, I don't believe I said anything about being the best that there was at anything. I merely said, I'm fun to work with. I've got a sense of humor. Most people have not regretted it. And keep it light. When I say keep it light, don't go going, well, you have to employ me because da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Nobody wants that. And by the way, I'd probably, at some point, even say, I know that if a better person comes along, you're going to employ them. And I'd be the first one to recommend that. But my question would be, better in what way? Because sometimes there is better on paper, but not better in reality. And that's always a risk, and it's always a judgment call. And best of luck on that one. It is difficult. I know from employing so many people in my time that it gets to be very difficult. By the way, I interviewed one person one time, and he really needed a job. That's what came over all the time he was talking to me. And he over-promoted himself, and he overstated a lot of stuff. I had a feeling it was overstated to the point of lying. And after about 5-7 minutes, I said to him, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop talking for a second. Because he wouldn't stop talking and trying to sell himself. And I said, what I want you to do is go and take a walk around the block. And I know that your interview time is nearly up and all the rest of it, but don't worry about that. Go take a walk around the block and just relax. And then what I'd like you to do is come back and let's start again. And I'm going to forget how you started this. And this time I'd like to interview you, the real you, not the one that's trying too hard and overselling and everything else. I'd like to interview the real you, because I think somewhere in there there's a really nice human being that I'd like to get to know. And even if I don't have the right job for you, maybe I know somebody that can get you the right job. Because so much of getting employed is not about the one interview, it's about who does that person know that can help you. And I think I can probably help you. From what I have heard already, I think I can probably help you. And he started to apologize, and I said, no, don't worry about that. Just go and take a walk around the block. Take lots of deep breaths, just get yourself grounded, and then come back in and pretend you haven't been here before. We'll start all over again. And I did. And he did a really great interview, and he was actually very humble, and he was very funny, and he was very honest about the fact that he had lost his job, and he was at some level quite terrified. Now, I like that. I mean, I liked his honesty, but that's a personal thing. I liked his honesty. It made me trust him a lot more. I liked a lot about him. And so I said, just hold on a second. And I picked up the phone and I phoned a very high flyer in town, and who happened to be probably close to the top of the tree in that particular industry. And I said, George, wasn't his name, but who cares? George, I got a really nice person in my office that came in for an interview, and I don't have the right sort of job for him because I don't have a big enough one. He's underapplied. He's much more talented than the job I've got here. But when I thought about who could use him, who could use that sort of talent, I thought of you. So I was wondering whether you'd be good enough to make some time to see him. And George, the George guy, said, hey, Sal, if you're bothering to make this call, I know he must be good. So yeah, so sure, send him over, and send him over now. I'll make time. I said, thank you. So I turned to the poor guy who come for the interview, and I said, all right, now then, you probably haven't planned for this, but I'd like to, well, first of all, actually, I checked. I said, are you available to go over to this sort of area right now? And the guy went, no. I said, good. So I sent him over. And about a week later, there was a very big bouquet of flowers on my desk, and I went, okay, who loves me this much? And it turned out to be this guy that I had interviewed. And guess what? The other guy I'd sent him to loved him. Totally saw what I saw in him, knew that he was in a bad place, and made room for him. Because he knew that long term this would be a very valuable member on his team. So he actually created a job for him to do until he found the right one. And I have to say that the person that I was talking about, just didn't have the words to thank me, and we know that. And I'm not telling the story because of that. I'm telling the story because remember that every single person that you meet knows other people. So if you leave an interview without asking the question, by the way, if you decide that I'm not the right person for you, is there anybody else you would recommend me to see? And if they said, actually, you probably should be seeing Jane Smith, I would immediately say, and would it be okay for me to say that you said so? Always get permission. Because if I can phone this other person up and say, hey, I just want to let you know that Jane Smith suggested that I contact you, it is much more powerful. Make sense? This is DearMamaSal saying bye-bye for now.